go straight to Barrister Vance Ofeli. Of course, you were not there at the Brekete family medium to further the campaign and the voice to why electricity is very so crucial. But your overview, what do you think? Do you think it will give the dividends? Do you think the people responsible would listen, knowing that the message is not just personal, one person to another, but it is going beyond, what might possibly give rise to the results? Do you see the end? Do you see light at the end of the tunnel thus far?
Very well. What is important, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
What is important is that the conversation is ongoing. It's not left unattended to. Okay, that's what is important. And on that day, coincidentally, the particular day that the members of the Light of Ndokwa Association went to Brekete family was the same day that the Kwale Free Trade Zone, was commissioned or inaugurated. So you can see that whole day, the next day, and the days after, conversation in Delta State was on Ndokwa land. And that's because Ndokwa has been so neglected for such a time that is unacceptable. Okay, so it is my belief that the gathering that we had at the Brekete family is one that is critical and important because it raised a lot of questions, and our representatives were called to account. Nedimoku, who represents Delta North, was called, though he didn't take the call. The call didn't go through. Then Nandez, who represents Ndokwa federal constituency, was also called, and there was conversation between the Human Rights Radio, the Light of Ndokwa Association ESCO members, and the lawmaker. And it was one. And this is what we ought to do as Nigerians, to make sure we hold our leaders accountable. And he has responded to the call to ensure that we have the IPP project in place. Okay? Whilst that was going on, in Kwale, the Kwale Free Trade Zone issue was ongoing too. And in that place, even though they have their own ideology as how they want things done, but we in Ndokwa, we believe that we need power supply even before you talk about a Kwale Free Trade Zone. Because when you put up a Kwale Free Trade Zone without electricity, it's going to become a moribund and a project that may not pass the test of time. Because you cannot put such kind of humongous project there, wherein you are calling the entire world to come and invest, because you now have a business hub. You are building a free trade zone, and then that free trade zone is going to become a business hub that will serve that whole axis and beyond. And then what you are doing is you're creating awareness. You're asking people to come. But one thing I know about investors is that if you build a free trade zone and you have no power supply, or your plan or the project on power have been long suspended, the IPP have been long suspended, and you are calling the world to a free trade zone, you won't get it right that way. Because power is important. Yes, it's power that will, bring energy to the free trade zone. And once there's energy in the free trade zone, investors will come and invest in that free trade zone. And what that will do is that it will now create employment in that region. Okay? Those who are into transportation, their business will expand, because as you have influx of people into the free trade zone, those people need to move from one location to the other. Then the issue of security. What we have done at the Berekete family, not like we planned it to coincide with the event, but that it is providence that made it so. We use that day to remind them that it is power first, okay? And then that you cannot have a free trade zone that you are not talking about power. Because the state ought to have taken over the IPP project by now. Because the state even have its own independent rural electrification program. And I did an advocacy sometime on countermeasure here that since the state already have an existing one, the state can bring the IPP for the Ndokwa land into that program and serve it. Because now there's adjustment in legislation. Okay, the Constitution have given the room for states to not generate and distribute power. So that is the reason we have to key into it. Delta State government need to key into it and do the needful. Even when we're talking about insecurity in Delta and the rest of that, when you have constant power supply, it's difficult for people to come in and do criminal activities in an area, because when everywhere is lit up, both in the day and in the night, people will be engaged. Okay, artisans will be engaged. Those who have learned one trade or the other will have power to deploy them. Then the whole place will be brightened. Anybody that wants to perform any criminal activity will be seen. And so we are not against the Kwale Free Trade Zone. In fact, it is our birthright. We acknowledge it. We thank the Delta State government for that feat. But we're saying that they should not forget that energy is much more an important resource. That if you have constant power supply in Kwale, and people start to do business, people can come together and create a free trade zone. Individuals, if there's power supply, individuals can come together and create a free trade zone. People can do it as long as there's power. So that tells you that power is much more important than any other program that has been cited in Ndokwa land. And so we must, as a matter of necessity, accentuate that ideology vis-a-vis the Kwale Free Trade Zone.
To get to